Plane passengers have plenty of choices when they're booking their flights. There are countless different airlines, seat selections, first-class upgrades, and so on. But passengers are left with only one option for the speed of that travel: subsonic, or slower than the speed of sound. However, supersonic travel, or flying faster than the speed of sound, has existed since the 1970s, though it hasn't been an option since 2003. Recently, several companies made news announcing their big plans to bring supersonic flights back. So just why did these flights stop in the first place? And how are these companies going to make it work nearly 20 years after it ended? In today's video, we're taking a look at the history and the future of supersonic commercial flights. A brief history of supersonic flights. Commercial supersonic flights first began in the 1970s with the creation of the Concorde, which was jointly developed by British Airways and Air France. This roughly 100-passenger plane flew various transoceanic routes for the next several decades, but was never quite viable. Eventually, it flew near exclusively from London and Paris to New York and was ultimately retired in 2003. What made this form of travel so untenable? Well, for starters, the cost of a ticket on the Concorde was astronomical. In 1996, the cost of a round-trip ticket from London to New York was $7,574. That's equal to $12,460 today when adjusted for inflation. This high ticket price was directly related to the fuel efficiency of these planes and the extremely high development costs that Britain and France sunk into the project. In addition to the high cost to operate, nearly every country in the world passed legislation restricting supersonic planes from flying over land at speeds breaking the sound barrier. When the plane exceeds the speed of sound, a tremendous boom is generated and reverberates from the craft. The noise is roughly equivalent to the sound generated when holding and operating a chainsaw. This legislation relegated supersonic flights to be able to operate almost entirely on transoceanic long-haul flights. The combination of high ticket prices, low fuel efficiency, and regulatory hurdles made for a tough balancing act. Then, to make matters worse, a high-profile runway disaster in 2000 led to 113 deaths. This sent the public's trust plummeting, and the small group of people who regularly used the Concorde's services began to decline. In the final days of the Concorde, Air France and British Airways discounted ticket prices down to a more affordable business class ticket. This actually led to the most profitable period of time in the history of the craft, but it was short-lived. Both airlines completely retired the craft in 2003, and there haven't been regular commercial supersonic flights since then. Who's bringing back supersonic flights? Recent headlines have brought supersonic flights back to the public conversation, and it seems that they may be ready for a comeback. Most notably, United Airlines publicly announced a purchase of 15 Boom Overture supersonic planes in June 2021. The company stated they hope to begin commercial use in 2029. So what is the Boom Overture, and who are the major players in the supersonic renaissance? Boom Supersonic is the most high-profile company working on the return of supersonic flights. This startup envisions a future of supersonic flights being the standard, taking passengers anywhere in the world at high speed. They're hard at work addressing many of the issues that led to the downfall of Concorde and ensuring that they create a financially and environmentally sustainable aircraft. Beside Boom Supersonic, there are two other major players mapping out the future of high-speed air travel. Ariane Supersonic and Spike Aerospace are both working on new supersonic plane technology, but their goals are more closely focused on smaller private jets than commercial airlines. What stands in the way of supersonic planes? All of these ambitious companies have some serious obstacles to overcome in order to make the comeback a success. First and foremost, they need to navigate the tricky little legislative issue that nearly every country banned these jets from flying over land. The supersonic boom generated by breaking the sound barrier is not an isolated noise that occurs at the time of breaking the barrier. It's a continuous boom that travels with the plane so long as it maintains that speed. So this 110 decibel boom is heard wherever the plane goes. Given that supersonic planes won't be immediately affordable for everyone in the world, it's unlikely that the law will be changed simply to accommodate those who can afford to fly on this plane. This is why NASA is actually working on turning the alarming boom into more of a dull roar. The boom that someone on the ground would hear as the plane flies overhead is almost entirely generated from the front and tail of the plane. These sound waves coalesce and travel down to the ground really rapidly, creating some deafening noise pollution. The NASA plan is to redistribute these waves and create a longer but quieter boom that would be more equivalent to the sound of a car door closing. The first version of this aircraft is set to be completed in 2022. It'll then conduct test flights over cities and towns, and citizens will be asked questions about the noise and their reaction to it. Their findings from these polls will then be presented to national regulators and lawmakers with the goal of proving that the low boom is considered tolerable and that the ban on flying over land should be removed. Aerion and Spike are counting on the success of this low boom change, and their current business models and projections are relying on enticing wealthy elites investing in their private jets for domestic and international travel. Boom, however, is not willing to risk the success of its new airliner on government policy changes. All current routes on Boom's website show transoceanic flights, and they're not counting on flying their supersonic jets over land anytime soon. What about environmental sustainability? The global climate crisis is top of mind for Boom Supersonic. In the deal with United, they committed to collaborating on developing a reliable supply of sustainable aviation fuel, which would benefit the entire industry overall. Current estimates show that the airline industry produces 2.8% of all CO2 emissions from fossil fuel combustion. Sustainable aviation fuels are currently very expensive to produce, but they're thankfully fully compatible with existing fueling infrastructure. While sustainable aviation fuel currently only makes up 0.1% of the fuel being spent in the air, projections estimate that the number needs to reach between 1.4% and 3.7% before it'll be considered cost-effective to produce. Fuel efficiency has come a long way since the 1970s, and it seems that Boom may be poised to leap over this hurdle that held the Concorde back all those years ago. Lowering the price of fueling the supersonic flights would dramatically lower the cost of a ticket, which would help Boom meet its mission of making global travel more accessible. What comes next for supersonic flights? United's announcement of purchasing 15 Boom overtures certainly got the world paying attention to supersonic flights again. If things go according to schedule, then we may see the return of passenger supersonic flights before the end of the decade. But who exactly will be on these planes? A ticket on the Concorde was prohibitively expensive for most consumers, the thousands of dollars exceeding anything beyond regular first-class travelers. Even many regular business-class travelers were priced out. However, Boom is setting its sights on that business-class traveler. It aims to provide an entirely business-class experience at prices comparable to subsonic business tickets. Meanwhile, the private jet being designed by Aerion and Spike are being targeted primarily to the ultra-wealthy who value class, style, and efficiency. Current plans set Aerion's A-20 private jet at $120 million. This seems like a lot of money, but then it's actually quite comparable to the private jets being sold today. Hundreds of private jets are currently being sold over $100 million each. And with thousands of global billionaires, there does seem to be a market for Aerion's high-class jet. The simple prestige associated with owning a supersonic private jet is enough to pull in plenty of billionaires. These folks value their time and efficiency above most things, and they tend to push that into as many areas of their lives as possible. Traveling in private supersonic jets would just be the latest extension of that lifestyle. Assuming these companies all achieve their missions, then consumer air travel will once again be breaking the sound barrier. But do people want supersonic travel? In the days of the Concorde, the time spent on a long plane ride was worthless and lost on hyperproductive business folks. But with the advent of remote work and the acceleration in communication, a 7-hour plane ride can in fact be 7 hours of productive work. With onboard Wi-Fi and the ability to conduct remote work, will passengers even be interested in getting to their destination more quickly? Only time will tell if the modern workforce will be interested in shelling out some extra bucks to save a few hours, or if the longer flight doesn't bother people the same way it used to.